The July 27th meeting of the Caddo Parish School Board will now come to order. I will ask Mr. Darren Dixon if he'll lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we pray? Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for health and strength. Lord, we pray now that and invoke your presence in this building today and in this meeting. We pray, Lord, that you give us wisdom, you give us understanding, and help guide us in doing the things that are beneficial to the people that we serve in this community. We thank you now in advance for hearing and answering our prayer. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, please join the meeting. Okay. Mr. Mail?
We're down to the minutes. I'll move to accept the minutes for June 8th, 2021 and June 15th, 2021 Caddo Parish School Board meetings.
Mr. Dixon?
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the minutes as presented. Please vote.
Okay, we'll wait. Okay.
Dr. Gorey for presentations and recognitions.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to invite Charnay McDonald to come. She will come with our presentations for today. And Charnay, I will tell you now, they have to do a reset, so they'll tell us when video's ready.
Okay, that works. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So for our presentations, we want to talk about how we've had an amazing award season this year. You've seen us celebrate an Elementary Student of the Year representing Caddo Parish for all of the state of Louisiana. And we've had a Teacher of the Year semifinalist. And now we are so excited to continue to build on that momentum by celebrating an amazing principal who is now our statewide Principal of the Year. So congratulations to Marco French, principal at Queensboro Elementary School. So while we have our video reset, I would like to call down Dr. Gorey and President Albritton, as well as Dr. Benita Dozart. And we would like to call Marco French and his mother to the stage, the family that you brought with you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. I'd like to, certainly on behalf of our entire Caddo Parish school system, present our Louisiana Principal of the Year, Mr. Marco French, with this small token of how proud we are of you and how excited we are that you will represent the state of Louisiana as well as the city of Shreveport as our Louisiana Principal of the Year. You know, when we make the decisions as an executive cabinet around Principal of the Year, we always look for candidates that we think can win. Of course, more than often, that is not the case, but I do believe there were several people in the room all year that felt that you had done the work, felt that you had certainly shown your love not only for community but for your children to where you would be a winner. And to no surprise to anyone, we're so proud of you for winning this award. So thank you for making Caddo look so very good on the state stage, and look forward to you continuing to tell your story and continuing to make huge impacts in the lives of children. Congratulations, Mr. French.
And the video that we're waiting on is just a nice little compilation wrap-up of the watch party that we had for Mr. French the night when he was announced as the state winner. And looks like we're ready.
Congratulations to Marco French, the principal of Queensboro Leadership Academy in Shreveport. He was selected as the Louisiana Principal of the Year. He credits that award to all of his teachers and staff.
This is not my award. This is our award, because if it wasn't for you all, I couldn't be. So when I say I am because of them, you all make me look good. I do have a vision. I created the vision, but I can't carry the vision out by myself. I need a team to help carry it out, and that's what I've had.
During his time, French has helped the school advance off the state's academically failing list and earn the school recognition as Louisiana's outstanding school.
And one of Shreveport's very own is chosen for Louisiana's Principal of the Year. Marco French is in his 5th year of being a principal at Queensboro Elementary. He was chosen out of 48 candidates.
Thank you, thank you.
Actually go through the application process, the tasks that we have to complete for the State Department, it's just even more rewarding to me. But I know my work is not done. This is my ministry, and I'm just looking forward to all the things that I am going to do in this district, and not only in this district, but in the world of education itself.
We are so proud of you, Mr. Marco French, for all that you've done, and thank you for representing Caddo Parish so well. And that concludes our recognitions.
Ms. Green?
I didn't press anything.
Oh, okay. Well, you were on the list. You were showing it. Okay. Okay. Next, we'll move to our visitor section. The Caddo Parish School Board welcomes your input and comments during visitor section. When your name is called, please step up to the microphone, give your name and address, and make your remarks to the entire board. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. The clocks on the monitors will help you be aware of your time. When the time runs out, your time is up. It is the board's policy not to respond individually to members of the audience. When appropriate, the board may refer concerns to the staff to be addressed. As this is a public meeting, we ask you to refrain from referring to personnel by name or incident. In accordance with the school board policy, derogatory statements about or directed at a school board member, any employee or other person shall not be allowed. Thank you. I have one request from Cedric Coyce. Chase.
Okay, good evening. President Albritton, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and Dr. Goree. I am Cedric Choice, the Legislative Director for the Red River United. My address is 1726 Lyon Avenue, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. I just returned from the legislative session, and while there were some accomplishments, but unfortunately, we still have not resolved the problem of unequal treatment of support employees when it comes to extended sick leave. Be assured, we will be working with our local legislators this year to make this a reality in the next session. We encourage you to work with us on that. This will be that year. Of course, also our legislative agenda in the short term is for the special school board election, and we will certainly be visiting with candidates in the very near future to assure that there is an alignment of goals with the teachers and school employees of the Red River United. We look to the board to raise our collective conscience to treat all employees with dignity and respect. Number one, for example, the pay schedules for support employees transferring from other districts should reflect years of service, just as they do for every other classification. Currently, the transferring support employee begins at 0 regardless of service in other districts. Number two, school support site employees shall not be required to take a non-paid lunch and be told they cannot leave campus during that non-paid lunch. Number three, a principal or administrator who has harassed an employee shall not get automatic favored status over the affected employee. Number four, for teachers, more disciplinary interventions are needed. As we begin the new year, every school needs ready access to mental health providers. Board members, we want to begin this year moving forward away from the issues that have divided us last year. Let's all open up our minds and hearts so that every voice is heard, so that no one fears speaking out. Finally, our boys and girls have had a normal school life taken away from them for the past 18 months. That is a tragedy. We cannot fix that, but we can usher in a path of normalcy. That means in person and all year long. Everyone must take personal responsibility, recognizing this is not a me thing, but a we thing. We stand in support of this administration and working to provide every child with a return to a normal school year for all the students. Thank you, and God bless you.
Next, we'll review the agenda. And what we'll do is look at each individual item and determine whether or not it should be on consent. If you have any questions as we approach those items or have any comments, if you'll signify that on the board, then you'll be given time to speak.
And I'll go through them first if I can.
Okay, and Dr. Gorey will start the process.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I will now present the items on agenda tonight. Item 6.01, personnel recommendations. Item 6.02, administrative contracts renewals through July. Item 6.03, requests for leave, classified and certified. Item 6.04, personnel transactions report resignations. Item 7.01, consideration of child nutrition program bid. Item 8.01, property bus rental request. Item 8.02, consideration of resolution in support of I-49 intercity connector. Item 8.03, consideration to change date of December Caddo Parish School Board meeting. Item 8.04, approval of Department of Exceptional Children 2021-2022 interagency agreements and contracts. Item 8.05, consideration of renewal of Youth Enrichment Program, YEP. Item 8.06, approval to sell Alexander Learning Center. Item 8.07, approval to list 79th Street property, and that's land only. Item 8.08, authorization of continuance of Colbun Council Lauren Tolliver. Item 8.09, approval of Caddo Shreveport sales and usage tax administrator position. Item 8.10, approve Battle on the Border showcase agreement. Item 8.11, approval of position alignment. And 13.01, student readmissions appeal hearing. Mr. President, we do have one family that is not in agreement, so there will be need to hear that family out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Now, going back over each item, reading through the personnel recommendations. 6.02, contract renewals.
So can you ask if that's going to go on consent now?
Yeah. If there's no discussion, do we see that going on consent?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the attorneys, I think he's coming on.
Mr. Abrams?
You're really going through your work session right now to ask questions. So then after you go through your work session, then go back through all of them and then just ask whether it can be on consent or not.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll be asking about consent on one, then having discussions about others all in between, which could go on for a while.
So the first time through, what we're doing is looking for any discussion, and then we'll go back and look for those that ought to be placed on consent. Okay. Consideration of the child nutrition program.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Tharp?
So this is when we ask the question?
Yes.
Okay, I just have a question about the more eco-friendly but cost-efficient supplies. Did Ms. Lynch have it, this might be for Mr. Greer, did she get to have any other bids for that or find anything that was more eco-friendly, cost-efficient? I know we discussed that, I'm aware of the greater, you know, cost of going completely eco-friendly, but was there any?
Mr. Greer?
No, ma'am, there were no other bids submitted along those lines.
So it's just the same styrofoam?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the price that you gave me last year, the $257,428 that we spend on just the supplies, I guess I looked at the spreadsheet that was sent out. So the additional, the 300 and, that's for additional supplies that I guess you didn't, they weren't like actual styrofoam and am I making myself, I'm not, am I?
And I don't have it in front of me, so I can't, speak to what you're asking at this point.
Okay, so we discussed a while back the cost for the current products is $257,428 a year. And I see on here that food service, paper, and supplies is $325,000. So I was just wondering what the difference was, why so much more, but I think it was for.
Yes, I believe that the
Mr. Greer, Ms. Scott
comparison,
just came in the room. She may have the information in question.
and as Ms. Scott approaches, I think the comparison that we did was based off of cost at that time of what she had spent previously on those styrofoam products, so it was like a comparison of what we'd spent versus what we would have spent if we had gone out and tried to do the more eco-friendly products, and she showed you a difference between that.
Okay. Hi.
Good afternoon. She did not give us any comparisons for purchasing when we opened the bids. We strictly went based on what the vendors actually bid for those items, and that's what we have presented to you all today. Also, we have to take into consideration that prices have changed probably from the time she did the comparisons due to the supply chain issues that we're having now because of COVID.
Okay. Okay. I guess that's it. That's all.
Okay.
Here's a Mr. Little. Mr. Little.
Mr. Little?
I did have a question while this issue's on the floor. From your perspective, if there was a policy in place that for single-use plastics, if we came within 10% of the current price, do you think a policy that was in place that favored the use of single-use, the avoidance of single-use plastics would be beneficial in transitioning over to more environmentally friendly or conscious materials? Would that give you the wherewithal to make those decisions without it having to come to board? And
Not necessarily because of the bid process.
Okay.
We would still, we can also put in there that we would approve equals,
Okay.
but we would still have to follow that bid process.
Okay. Even if it was 10% more expensive or kind of came within that area?
Yes, because it has to be bid. So we can't just specify what we would like to use. We have to send it out for bid and see if what the bid people actually proposing for us to use, and it has to be listed in the specifications as, we can specify that we want those type of items, but we have to say approved or approved equal.
Okay, because I'm trying to balance two things. I mean, I'm certainly fiscally conscious, but I'm also environmentally conscious, and it's sometimes difficult to marry those two parts of my brain. But I'd love to see a process in place where it automatically falls into perspective instead of it the assumption to be perpetual that we can't afford it, when the reality is over time things that are not single-use plastic may become more and more affordable as it becomes more commonly
That may
used.
be the case because we are trending in that direction because of eco-friendly products and eco-friendly manufacturers. But again, because we are obligated to bid our items, we still have to go through this process, so we just can't put a policy in place saying these are the items that we would like to have or we want to use.
Right, I think even, and Mr. Greer may want to add something to this, thank you, wonderful answer, Ms. Scott, but I do think even prior to this recent conversation, the district has always moved in the direction of how can we be more eco-friendly. I think even when the decision was made to remove a lot, the washers out of the cafeterias, where we, probably the most eco-friendly, well, then you got water issues, but then certainly more eco-friendly than styrofoam. We had always and always do comparatively look at what those things are that we can be more eco-friendly with. And the good part is that a lot of the companies are moving in that direction too. So a lot of your options are more eco-friendly than they have been in the past.
But I would venture to say that as an employer in this parish, we're probably the #1 producer of single-use plastics. I see what piles up in dumpsters and trash cans around schools, and we try to teach our students to be good stewards of their community, and we just crank out trash that will last thousands of years. And so it's, again, I think it's an area where we could continue to put some energy and effort without blowing up our budget. But
And I think those products will become more economical as time goes on, because that's the way we're trending now as far as in our environmental friendliness, and most people are starting to actually incorporate those policies. So as it trickles down from the federal to the state, then we may have more leeway.
yeah, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Vincent?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I thought the lawyer was on. In the case of, like, for an example, number 7, when there's no bid, what do we do in those situations?
Well, Ms. Lynch would have the opportunity to actually go out and resolicit that if she needed to, and then we would be able to see if we could source it locally. That could be one option because we have gone through the competitive process.
Okay. So you, in essence, you would have the option to choose who you wanted to?
We would have to get quotes.
Okay, okay. And a final question, have we looked at a company that could provide all these products or services that could save us some money? For an example, an Airmark.
The process that we have to use, we can't just necessarily look at one particular vendor. We have to submit the solicitation and allow the vendors to actually apply or respond to that. But we can't award it to multiple vendors. And I think that's what we've done in this instance.
You know, I would invite Ms. Lynch up too if you have something you want to add, or whomever wants to add something from your team. One thing I'll tell you though, Dr. Vincent, is that would be like an Airmark would be us doing a bid to, like, say, outsource our services is what that would be. And we had not, certainly, we had not looked in that direction. But I'm sure
not necessarily the service, but the products. I'm thinking these are products we're ordering.
Right, and so they're welcome to bid on those different products.
Right, right. Well, what I'm saying, I guess I would ask staff to maybe look at next year, I guess, bundling these products and putting them out, because I've spoken to some executives that may be interested in looking at providing a package deal on these. So we would order from their system, which would in turn may save us some money, so staff could look at it and with the hopes of saving us some money.
Okay.
So
We would
thank
definitely
you.
look at it.
Yeah, thank you. So was there anyone, Ms. Lynch, from your team? I'm confused. She's welcome to come up and speak at this time, because we do want the board to have as much information as we can. Excuse us, board, we're still trying to adjust to not having staff in the meetings.
Good evening. I'm Audrey Ferguson. I am the inventory coordinator. As far as what you're asking, we are more than interested in allowing someone to bid on all the products. We just can't get them to bid.
Thank you.
That's it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I got that.
Yeah. I think that's it. Thank you, Audrey.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
Moving on
Scott, Ms.
to
Lynch, too.
8.01, property bus rental request. Any questions, discussion? 8.02, excuse me, Ms. Green.
Yes. Mr. Green, what is the CVA building?
I can take it. Okay, he's on.
Okay. That's the Caddo Virtual Academy, Ms. Green.
And where the CDA is located, it's the LSU site location off of, right there at what that would be West 70th Street, and, well, it's off 70th Street.
South Buncombe Road.
Okay. And they're trying to hold meetings there on Saturdays, September through December.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we didn't see it as a situation where it would interfere with any of the principal's plans. Of course, he would have an opportunity to go ahead and decide whether or not it would be an interference and would not approve it, therefore. So if he had not approved it, would not have made it to my point. So we feel like it wouldn't have been an intrusive situation.
Mr. Burton, what's the name of the street that building is located on? I know it's off of the loop there.
It's the Louisiana Tech building that sits beside 3132.
3132.
The name of the street escapes me. It's a frontage road area, though.
Yeah, you can actually see it right there when you're on past 70th on 3132.
Correct.
Ms. Thorpe?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Greer, I went by Arthur Circle today and I saw those trucks at Arthur Circle. Are they just putting up new poles and transformers and things like that?
They're working on an electrical upgrade project within that area, Ms. Tharp, and just would help them to be able to stage in that area. This is a contractor for AEP SWEPCO, and for those of you that understand when we have these little outages from time to time, SWEPCO is very generous with us in trying to cut restoration times in half. So it was an opportunity for us to just kind of extend Laurel Reef with that partnership there. But that's correct. They will only be utilizing the parking lot area for projects in that area.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Rochelle?
Thank you. I want to follow up on the Arthur Circle. How long is this going to continue? I had received one phone call. I haven't had an opportunity to go by and see that there was all kinds of trucks and trailers and a dumpster and other stuff there. Is that true?
Per the request, this will run through the end of October.
Okay, and I mean, is there like a dumpster there also? I mean, is this just like trucks?
That could be very likely. I've not seen it for myself. Staff, we tend to make drive-bys by the closed sites every few days or so. But that's something we can check out just to confirm.
Okay. Now, I've had somebody call me that had gone by there and they asked, what was going on, why were all these vehicles there? And I mean, SWEPCO does a lot for us, but
yeah,
as long as it's being monitored and it's not disturbing the community, in particular those that live right there, I don't really see any problem with it as long as it's not. So.
And it actually gives an unintended benefit in the sense that it kind of keeps that unwanted traffic off the campus. At one time, we were having an issue with folks trying to gain entry into the building without permission, so it kind of cuts down on some activities like that.
Okay, well, that's good too, then. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Little?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did have a question. I think the answer is already there, but for the CVA building with Sigma Rho, do we routinely have people that meet on our property sign a hold harmless agreement and then provide evidence of their own insurance?
That's correct. That's part of the process.
In case there is an accident or damage to the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That's correct. That's a part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Little, on the next consideration of the resolution in support of I-49, with your permission, could we add that to the consent agenda? Would that work for you? Okay, thank you. No, that's what I'm saying. If you'll allow it, that's what we'll do. Of course, now we're open for any comments or questions on the resolution. Okay. Ms. Green?
Well, you hopped to wanting to add it to consent so fast without him being on record explaining what this is. So I'd like for him to explain.
Okay. Mr. Little?
Yeah, thank you, Jasmine. The I-49, this is a resolution in support of the connector, the 3.6 miles that goes through Shreveport. Several local authoritative bodies have already expressed consent. Most recently, I believe it was May 21st, the Parish Commission voted in favor of it. The one dissenting vote was a Republican on the committee who felt like it was not fiscally responsible. So I-49, as you know, is 1,700 miles, and there's a 3.6 mile disconnect sort of in the center. Some of it is local economics, where our touch on it is, and it's not in the resolution because we don't have maybe the studies or the evidence to support it, but philosophically, it would improve ingress and egress for our students traveling north to south. It also potentially could improve transportation times and reduce transportation cost. As a community, there is an economic benefit. There is also a concern with having contaminated or hazardous materials being carried across our water supply, which is Cross Lake. And I would also argue that as a community, one of our greatest assets is our location. If you'll recall, 49 comes through, albeit not perfectly. 49 comes through, I-20 comes through. 69 will come through at some point. We have the port of Red River, and we also have railheads. Our logistic attractiveness has brought in organizations like Amazon, and if we continue to improve our infrastructure, I think other businesses will follow suit. So I think it's important for us as an organization to kind of speak with one voice and join our voice with other organizations locally.
You explained that so well. Thank you, Mr. Albritton. I don't want it on consent.
Not on consent? Okay.
Well, and you're going to go back through
Well, we're going to go back through it, but, okay, we'll go back through it at the end. Okay. Okay. 8.03, consideration of change of the Caddo Parish School Board meeting in December. Any comments, questions? Approval of 8.04, approval of the Department of Exceptional Children, interagency agreements and contracts. Questions, comments? 8.05, consideration of the renewal of the Youth Enrichment Program. 8.06, approval to sell Alexander Learning Center. Mr. Rochelle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm trying to really understand this process a little bit more, and I was the one that really pushed this a few years back. Is we currently have an offer of $500,000. And is the staff recommending here that we accept this $500,000? It's not real clear. It says staff recommends that the board gives authorization to negotiate the sale of this property. I'm not real sure, because when I hear negotiate, I'm negotiating price and everything. What do we?
Mr. Greer, would you like to come on? That we are asking that we sell the property at the $500,000 is what we're asking staff. So the word, and I do certainly agree with you, the negotiate does lead to believe, but that has already happened, and this is where we were recommending that we do sell the property at this price. Is there anything you want to add, Mr. Greer?
No, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Negotiation aspect has already taken place. The offer was firm, and so, yeah, that would be our recommendation, that we accept the offer.
Okay. So negotiations have already taken place, so so there was an offer given and we want to accept it?
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there really wasn't any negotiation. There was an offer given and it's being suggested that we accept it.
On behalf of the district, the realtor did have conversations and did have some, negotiations with the interested party, and this is the offer that she's presented to us and explained that this is one that we would bring to the board to ask the board if they'd like to accept this offer.
Okay. And I guess this is where this process is a little confusing at this juncture when an offer comes in, and this may be kind of a legal question, that when the offer comes in, who is authorized to do negotiations at that point in time?
So what you do authorize me as superintendent, working in collaboration with our commercial realtor. Of course, Mr. Greer acts as my designee in that respect. So and we have continuous conversations. There are some offers that come in for buildings that we don't bring to this board at all because they're just not reasonable. But this is a situation where we do work with that commercial realtor to determine what are those that we bring to the board.
Okay.
In fact, we don't bring them most of the time.
Okay, well, you've given me the assurance that I was hoping to hear, is that there was somebody in the background that was going over this, and we were getting the advice that we needed to. This just wasn't just thrown up there. Obviously, there may have been an offer of less than $500,000 to begin with, and there were discussions, and it was negotiated up to $500,000. But I believe that the wording here, it may need to.
I would agree with you.
I think we may want to change this. Instead of saying staff recommends that the board gives authorization to negotiate the sale of this property, is that I think it may need to be worded to accept the $500,000 with other language and other terms to be presented to the board for approval.
I agree.
Okay. Well, I know we're going to have to do it like right now. Look, Mr. Abrams may be writing it out as we speak.
Can we just pull it off of consent and?
It's not on consent yet.
So if it goes on consent, the motion would read, approval to sell Alexander Learning Center, move to approve, staff move forward with the negotiations to sell Alexander Learning Center for $500,000, provided the language and terms of the pending purchase agreement meets with the approval of the board as recommended by staff and submitted in the electronic mail out. So they put the price in there. We're negotiating the terms as far as within the agreement itself.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's just a little bit of change, whoever the...
It put for $500,000, so it's in there.
Okay, I'm good with that, just as long as the rest of the board understands what we're doing there. Because, I mean, at that point in time, I'm fine with it being on consent. Okay, that was it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Nations?
I appreciate the little fact sheet that we've been given in our materials at our desk. I just have a couple of quick questions that are probably quickly and easily answered. I'm assuming we've had no other viable or otherwise any offers on this property before.
So one thing I'll speak to, and Mr. Greer, is that we had an offer from Moonbot, the movie makers, that was almost to the point of closing. That was very viable, but they then relocated to Florida, and that's been about 3 years ago.
Okay. And my other question is, we're not given a lot of information on who is making the offer. Is that not allowed to be shared in this setting, or what?
I'll defer to the attorney on that one.
My understanding is, I don't remember the name of the company. Mr. Greer, do you have it in front of you?
The gentleman representing the company is named Granger.
And this is a church, correct?
It's for an
No, sir, this is not a church.
For medical service.
Okay.
Yes.
Medical services?
Yeah.
Planned utilization will be multi-tenant offices.
It sounds a little ambiguous, but I just would like some more information about that. But I'm not opposed to the sale by no means. I just kind of wish we had more information on who we're selling it to, other than health services. That seems very broad and undefined.
We can prepare that information and submit it.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. That's all I had, President. Thank you.
Mr. Ryle?
Thank you, President Albright. Let me ask a question. Okay, on this property, it's offline right now, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
What is our expenses on offline property? Are we've got insurance and everything. How much expense is keeping up offline property?
One thing that we did look at is the utility cost of offline. And you're right, sir, there are several indirect costs of an offline property, but one thing that's tangible that we see is that from May 2020 to April of 2021, we spent a little over $17,000 for utilities alone for the facility. So it certainly is an expense with any of our offline campuses.
Okay, so I would, if possible, we've got a number of offline properties. If possible, I'd like to know our total expense district-wide, what we spend on offline properties, if it's possible.
We're going to Building and Grounds Committee meeting, and if it's okay with you, we'll bring that as a part of the agenda.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, comments on 8.06? Moving to 8.07, approval to list the 79th Street property land only. Okay. Authorization of continuation of co-bond counsel, Lauren Tarver. Mr. Little.
Yes, I did have a brief question about 8.06. When we say land only, is that exclusive of mineral rights or exclusive of surface improvements?
We have to maintain our mineral rights if we own them. We can't get rid of mineral rights.
Okay, so when we say land only,
There's no structure on this.
There's no structure on it?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Green?
It was for 8.08.
8.08, authorization of continuation of the co-bond counsel, Lauren Tarver.
Mr. Abrams, were there, we've had other co-counsel in the, co-bond counsel in the past, right?
Correct.
And and Lauren will be the only one who will continue?
No, we already, this is continuing her. She's already our co-bond counsel. She's with a
Understood.
different firm other than Matuk and LaFleur. She's now with Jones Walker, and that's the change.
Oh, so she's changed firms?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I do think Michael Brashada's firm will, Snow, Butler Snow will still remain.
He's still there.
One of the co-counsels.
Is that all, Ms. Green?
That's it.
Okay. 8.09, approval of the Caddo Shreveport Sales and Use Tax Administrator position. Okay. Approval of the agreement of the Battle of the Border Showcase event. Okay. 8.11, approval of the position alignment. Okay. Now, going back over the items, looking for consent. 6.01, consent. 6.02, consent. 6.03, consent. 6.04, consent. 7.01, consent. 8.01, property rentals, consent. 8.02, consideration of the resolution. We've been asked to hold that. Okay. 8.03, consideration to change the date of the December Caddo Parish School Board meeting, consent. 8.04, approval of the Department of Education of Exceptional Children interagency agreements, consent. 8.05, consideration of renewal of youth enrichment program, consent. Approval of the Sale Alexander Learning Center. That will be changed to approval of the sale of the Alexander Learning Center at $500,000 offer. Consent.
Is that on consent, or are we getting more information about medical services?
It's on consent.
It's on consent right now.
You can pull it out. You can pull it out.
I would like to pull it myself. Okay.
Are y'all pulling it off consent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. 8.07, approval to list 79th Street property, land only, consent. Authorization of continuation of co-bond counsel, Lauren Tarver, consent. Approval of Caddo Shreveport Sales and Use Tax Administrator position, consent. 8.10, approval of the Battle of the Border Showcase Agreement, consent. 8.11, approval of the position alignment, consent. Okay. We have consent 6.01, 6.02, 6.03, 6.04, 7.01, 8.01, 8.03, 8.04, 8.05, 8.07, 8.08, 8.09, 8.10, and 8.11. Chair will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Nations?
Move to confirm the consent agenda.
Mr.
Should be a
Ryle?
motion to approve, to establish the agenda and propose consent agenda. Next motion be to confirm it.
Right, you're 4.01.
4.01.
Okay. Move to establish the agenda and the proposed consent agenda for the July 27th, 2021 Caddo Parish School Board meeting school board meeting as presented.
Okay. Mr. Mail?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to establish the agenda and the proposed consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Mr. Ryle?
Move to confirm the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to confirm the consent agenda. Do we have a second? Mr. Dixon?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dixon. Please vote. Okay, motion carries. Mr. Mail?
I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding. Now we're going to item 8.02? Okay.
Okay, is that a motion to accept? Is that what I heard?
I think
he's
Mr.
coming.
Little's going to bring you the motion.
Mr. Little?
Like a motion to accept 8.02, consideration of resolution in support of I-49 intercity connector.
Okay, second?
Second.
Mr. Mail? Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Little, would you like to discuss?
In addition to what I've said before, if there are any questions, I'd feel happy to do my best to address them or any concerns.
Mr. Mail?
Oh, no, I don't have any questions. What I would like to say this, with the previous, the I-49 that runs through my neighborhood, we were looking for quite a few different things to happen, I told him. And one of the reasons that I'm agreeing with this is because for the movement of the city, because we need to be moving in that direction. I'm certain. Now, in the area where I live, we only got one store, maybe for business pleasures, but I hope this will advance the northern region and help us with the north and south traffic, okay?
And certainly the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. You
Okay.
know,
Well, it's fine.
Segments of an interstate that bottleneck don't really benefit us. But when the entire thing is completed, and it may take another 20 years, but I think it'll be an amazing asset for our local community.
Okay, Dr. Vincent?
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I would ask anybody, is anyone familiar with what's happening in Tulsa and New Orleans and all the places whereby they've laid interstates directly through the inner city?
Again, this is outside of my field of expertise. I can tell you anecdotally, I lived in New Orleans and, have watched them construct and deconstruct interstates. I would never hold New Orleans as an example of what to do other than music and food. I have seen some positive neighborhood developments where off-ramps have been removed and watched communities sort of restore. But it's always a trade-off, certainly.
Well, I would just say I'm definitely against this particular proposal or this resolution. I don't see how it's even fitting in the scope of our work. Traditionally, since I've been on the board, we hadn't even tackled issues of this magnitude or in this particular. I don't think it's germane, being quite frank, and I'm not sure why we even putting forth a resolution. But more importantly, I think the example that School Board Member Tramiel just mentioned, the best example is the example right here in Shreveport, since we don't want to look at New Orleans or Tulsa. There's examples all throughout the country where this doesn't work. Most especially dividing communities. We look at Cedar Grove, and what do you hear? The west side versus the east side. And in addition, it did not provide the economic impact. Finally, I don't think there's even an off-ramp when it's connected. So I'm not sure where the economic impact will come from. In conclusion, you know, I'm a Baptist, so I have to say finally in conclusion, to lighten the air in the room, I think in conclusion, we need to look at how this affects boys and girls before we just put out things like this, because as we know, it's a very divisive discussion. So I'm definitely not for it, and I think we haven't done our own study how it will impact us as a school board. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I would say where our area of impact on this is, certainly if the economic impact studies hold true, you know, we would be the recipient of certain tax proceeds that would directly benefit us financially. And to my previous point, it does improve ingress and egress, and it should improve transportation time and reduce transportation cost, all of which benefit our students directly. But you are correct in the sense that this is traditionally outside of our scope, but it is such a large project and touches so many aspects. And I believe there is some hesitancy in Baton Rouge because there are some voices that don't even live in the neighborhood who have nothing but time, who are kind of amplifying this issue. Many of the people that live in the neighborhood will directly benefit from this. And I've helped build Habitat for Humanity homes in Allendale, and I know the area, not as well as some, but I do know the area and understand the concerns. But I would say that overall this is positive for us as a city and a parish, and has direct benefit for the school board.
Mr. Ryle?
Call for the question.
Call for the question. Let's see, Dr. Vincent's already spoken. We have a motion for the call for the question.
I guess point of order.
Is there a second?
Somebody has to second.
I'm listening for a second. I'm listening for a second. Okay.
I guess point of
But
order.
Mr. Vincent had already spoken.
It doesn't make any difference. He's called, he's got a second. That's it. But he just called.
The point of order does take precedent.
He did call that.
And I'm asking, we've got a motion, but I need a second.
Do we have a
Should have been clearer.
We have a second.
We got a second.
Okay, we have a second for Ms. Bell.
What you're voting for is to stop discussion.
I think you're.
Mr. Vincent?
I'm just waiting on, I don't want over.
Mr. Vincent?
Yeah, okay, yes, sir, I'm just saying, are we in discussion still, or we just move forward?
No, we have a call for the question. I'm looking for a second to a call for the question. And I heard from Ms. Bell.
Yes, sir, I would just say moving forward, sir, we were in a discussion, I think we at least have 5 minutes to speak, but I'm okay with it, Mr. President. Thank you so much.
Okay, okay. We have a second on the call for the question. Will you please vote?
And they're voting on the call for the question.
Yes, voting on call for the question, yes. We have a question here. Actually, the vote that we're looking at is 8.02.
Well, no, it's the call for the
And
question.
it's a call for the question. Okay, as long as you understand that, it's a call for the question. Okay.
Who are you missing? Oh, Mr. Aubrey, just you. Okay. It's just going slow.
I'm sorry, I just saw the question mark.
Okay, what's this vote coming?
We're just waiting.
Okay, so this is the call for the question?
This is the call for the question.
Okay,
This to stop discussion, so.
okay, so now, I've already voted once. Are we voting again?
We had a glitch.
Okay, this is a glitch, so this is a call for the question. Okay.
Right. She's, Darla's indicating that there was a systems issue with the first vote, so the vote that you just got is a call for the question vote. And she'll show that after we get everyone votes in.
Dr. Dozart? I voted that
Right, it was an issue with the system, so they had to redo it again.
Okay, I didn't want to keep doing the same thing.
What's the vote?
Let's just wait till you show the vote, if we can. Darla, do you see the vote? Can you tell us what the vote was?
9 yes, 3 no.
Motion passes.
Motion for the question passes 9-3. Now we go to the original motion, which was to consideration of resolution in support of the I-49 intercity connector. Please vote.
Okay.
It's not showing the vote, but it's 10 yes, 2 no.
And you've documented who your no's are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you get that, Mr. Aubrey?
No, I didn't.
I'm sorry. It's not showing the vote. Darla indicates that the motion does pass 10 yes, 2 no, and she has documented who the no's are, so it will be correct in the official records.
Okay. So 8.02 carries, approved for the resolution. Then we move to 8.06. And I think, Dr. Gorey, we're looking for the name of the company that is the buyer.
Correct. I will, if you could turn Mr. Greer on, we'll see if he has any additional information. He was working to get that information.
Yes, sir. I was able to pull up the latest draft between the agent and this company. It's Shreveport Highland LLC.
Is there any other descriptions, Mr. Greer, in that contract of what they wanted to do with the building?
As I scroll through, no, sir, it's just general terminology as far as terms of the agreement.
I'm trying to remember names here in a minute.
That was a specific question that I did ask the agent today in anticipation of this conversation, and the response that I received was that this would be for multi-tenant office usage. So, but I can flesh that out a little bit more tomorrow, and if that comes in the form of a board request, I can prepare a statement to submit.
Now, Mr. Ryle, you waived the point
What's the name of the entity again?
No, it wasn't on consent.
Oh,
Well,
we did.
we were trying to determine how to read the motion to get the name of the company that was buying it, and Mr. Greer has furnished that. Okay.
What's the name of the company again?
Shreveport Highland LLC.
Okay. Now, I'm looking for a motion to accept the bid from the Shreveport Highland LLC. for $500,000. Mr. Mail?
Okay. What number is that?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, can I offer something, please? We have a meeting next week as executive cabinet. Staff is willing to pull this and to get some additional information, because I do want all board members to have a clear conscience when they vote. Mr. Abrams, can I pull this as a staff item? And
There's no reason for it.
well, I just want to make sure everyone feels their questions have been answered. So again, if you make the motion, you can.
There's no.
Vote it off at this point in time.
Yeah, the motion is, there's no motion.
Not on consent, though.
The item
not on
is,
consent.
It belongs to the board right now.
the motion, there is no motion yet.
There's no
The
motion.
board member can either
That's why I said
move
what
to
I did.
continue it to a later date, or you can authorize, by consent, that it be removed at this point.
Okay.
Oh, I'm pleased with it, okay? And this is 8.06?
To simplify the process rather than add to the confusion, as chairman, I want to suggest we pull it to be considered at the next executive committee meeting.
With chairs on it?
Table, Mr. Chairman.
Well, if we table it, it puts it out infinitum, okay? Okay, Mr. Dixon, please, go ahead.
Oh, well, I'll make a motion to table.
No motion to
No
table.
motion.
It's not necessary,
Okay, let's just table.
okay?
As long as the president has said he will pull it and there's no opposition, then it's pulled.
You have opposition.
Ms. Bell?
Can I speak?
Well, now we need a motion before we talk.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's nothing on the floor right now. to
I was
discuss.
gonna make the motion, but nobody recognized me.
Okay.
I move that
Okay.
we,
All right, Ms. Bell, there's no reason to make the motion. We're going to pull it for executive committee review next week. At that time, we will have more detail. There's too many questions. There's too many, no. It's a staff proposal.
You do.
Staff is pulling it,
If the
and
president.
then we're going to let it go.
If there is, it can be unanimous that we pull it, if by the board president. Since it is not unanimous, you got to have a motion to postpone it. It's on the agenda.
So I guess we're saying that we have some individuals that don't want to pull it,
Or
and we need a motion to pull it,
a motion to postpone.
or a motion to postpone, either way. Mr. Rochelle?
I'm not making a motion to postpone, there's no reason to.
Well, do you want to make a motion to vote on it?
I'll make, well, yeah, I'll make a motion, I may need some correction on the words over here. Let's see, approval to sell Alexander Learning Center, move to approve, staff move forward with negotiations to sell Alexander Learning Center for $500,000, provided that the language and terms of a pending purchase agreement meets the approval of the board as recommended by staff and submitted in the electronic mail-out.
I second the motion.
Okay, and we have a second from Ms. Bell.